Chapter 5. But you gotta help us, Finn pleaded. Listen, I can't, said Brad. The Imagineer who had produced the DJI film shoot at MGM Disney. Behind him, the soundstage hummed with forklifts moving equipment around. From the Magic Kingdom, Amanda and Finn had ridden a bus to the transportation and ticket center, and then another to Disney MGM. It was late in the afternoon now, going on evening. Finn had to get home soon or face being grounded. Brad looked at Amanda's a couple of times. Do I know you? He finally inquired. She's a friend, Finn said, interrupting, before Amanda could answer. Again, Finn showed him one of the 4 images on the digital camera. That's Rilla, remember? You must know how to find her. It's important. Your parents could make a formal request, I suppose. Yeah, right, my parents, Finn complained. It's not like I'm a stalker. I want a phone number is all. Her school, anything. Brad shook his head. Said he was sorry, and stepped back onto the soundstage. Finn called out loudly, What if I can prove there's something wrong with the DJI technology? This was his last resort. Brad slowed a step, but did not stop completely. What if the DJIs are all in danger? Amanda and Brad looked at Finn curiously. What are you talking about, kid? There's nothing wrong with the technology, he said, taking a step closer. No, Finn thought. He had him now. Get me the names of their schools, I'll do the rest. What's wrong with the technology? There's nothing wrong with the technology, Brad said more forcefully. Nice try. He turned his back on Finn once again. Finn said, An old guy named Rain. An Imagineer like you. Rain Kresge? How do you know Rain? Brad sounded impressed. That's for me to know and you to find out. Call Rain. Ask him if he knows me. You know Rain, Brad repeated, somewhat astonished. I know about the Overtakers. The color in Brad's face drained away. Finn thought if he'd pushed him, he would have fallen over. The sooner you clear this with Rain, the better. The longer it takes for me to get to the other host, the greater the danger. Brad's voice cracked as he said, No one is in danger. Finn said, Talk to Rain. Finn signaled Amanda with his eyes, time to go. A few minutes later, they walked past the giant replica of Mickey's sorcerer's cap. What was that all about? She asked. What school do the Overtakers play for? School? They're a sports team, right? Oh, right, Finn said. He felt he owed her more than that. Have you ever heard a dream so real that when you woke up, you were sure you'd just been wherever you'd been in the dream? Everybody has a dream like that. For me, well, it's more like a nightmare. But what if somebody tells you something in the dream? Something to look for when you wake up. And you wake up, and there it is. I'd have to think about that, she conceded. Finn felt frustrated. He wanted to be alone, with time to think things through. She said, If you know this guy, Rain, maybe he could help you find the others. No, he's the one that asked me to find them. Amanda's face twisted. Oh. They reached the bus pickup point at the transportation and ticket center. Her bus arrived. She said, "The Overtakers aren't a sports team, are they?" "No." "And you're not going to tell me what they are? Maybe sometime." "I can help you, Finn." "I want to help you, but you've got to let me in." He saw something behind her eyes, as if she knew more than she was letting on. Or was that just another girl trick? Finn couldn't think what to say. Amanda climbed onto the bus, pausing briefly to talk to the driver. There were no tickets required on the Disney buses, so why would Amanda stop to talk to the driver? As the bus pulled away, Finn couldn't get the driver's face out of his mind. An old man with right hair, ice blue eyes, and a kind face. Rain? Was it possible? Chapter 6. His hand trembling, Finn reread the list that had been left for him at the school office the next day. Howard Lee Maitland Jackson. He recognized these as the names of the 4 middle schools. 4 schools where he now believed he'd find the other DHIs. The note wasn't signed, but he knew it was from Brad. "You don't have to do this," he reminded Amanda. Though it was a little late now. They were riding a somewhat smelly city bus toward Lee Middle School. 1-story buildings, painted pink, sea blue, and white, streamed past. Heat waves shimmered from the pavement. Another fall day. "I'm okay," she replied. He wanted to think this had been his idea, but he knew better. He wasn't sure how she'd managed to talk him into letting her join him, but here she was. "We may not get back in time for a 5th period," he warned. They'd skipped out on lunch together, slipping out a door near the gym. They'd be in some serious trouble if caught. "I'm a big girl, Finn." The bus driver, a fat guy with a blotchy red face, kept an eye on them in the mirror. Finn was feeling paranoid. "Hey, do you think that he's watching us?" Amanda said, interrupting him. "Yes." "What if he's some kind of spy?" Finn asked. "Oh, please. He's just curious about a couple of kids on their own in the middle of the day." He felt stupid for having said that. To drum it in, Amanda asked, "What kind of spy? For whom?" She whispered into his ear, "The Overtakers." She meant to tease him, but Finn wasn't laughing. "You saw those guys yesterday at the Magic Kingdom," Finn reminded her. "You weren't supposed to be there. You broke the rules," she reminded him. "You think they're Overtakers?" Again she was teasing, "As if you'd know." "When are you going to tell me what's going on?" "When I found out myself," he answered. "These other kids, the other DHIs," she said. "You think they have the answers?" "Not exactly." The driver picked up a black radio microphone with a curly black cord and spoke into it. They couldn't hear what he was saying. "What if he works with truancy cops?" Finn said. The schools were serious about kids cutting class. "Now you're making me paranoid," she said sharply. She reached up and pressed the signal for the next stop. The brakes hissed as the bus slowed and pulled over to the curb. As they hurried off the bus, Finn caught the driver's gaze in the side mirror. He was watching them. 9 hot blocks later, they reached the school. Finn was thirsty. It was a nicer, newer school than theirs. They walked down the main hall, trying to look like they knew where they were going. Neither had been here before. "What's the plan?" Amanda asked. "We're here at lunchtime, for a reason." Finn explained, checking a wall clock. They had to catch a return bus within 20 minutes, or they'd miss the start of 5th period. He doubted they'd make it. They located the cafeteria by following the noise and smells. To save time, Finn and Amanda had decided to split up. The enormous room was packed with kids and littered with backpacks. Hundreds of kids ate at long tables. As Finn passed the table, he heard someone behind him say, "Hey, isn't that one of the hosts from Disney World?" Less than 5 minutes, and he'd been spotted. He didn't like being famous as much as he thought he would. He slipped on his sunglasses. He saw Amanda a few tables away. She carried copies of the photographs they'd taken at the Magic Kingdom. She was showing them around to kids and asking questions. Finn didn't know which of the 4 each eyes went to Lee. He walked slowly, studying faces at the various tables. It was really loud in here. An abundance of food smells combined into a stink he found sickening. A big guy suddenly jumped up in Finn's way, an 8th grader, judging by his size. He wore a Colorado Avalanche jersey, colorful jams, and new Nikes. "Who are you staring at?" he growled. "No one." The big kids reached out and lifted Finn's sunglasses. "Think you're too cool." Seeing Finn, he did a double take. "Hey, how come I know you?" "Give me back my glasses, please." "Aren't you like on Zoom or something?" "I'd like my glasses back, please." "Give 'em back, Roy," a girl at the next table said. "It's not Zoom, stupid. He's a host over at the Magic Kingdom, like Charlene Turner." Charlene Turner. Finn had her last name now. "Oh yeah?" the big kid said reluctantly, returning the sunglasses to Finn. "What are you doing here?" "Looking for Charlene," Finn said. "Can't help you," the big guy said, sitting back down. Finn looked to the girl expectantly, but she shook her head. "Sorry," she said. Finn looked up to see Amanda, waving at him. Having won his attention, she pointed to a window that looked out onto the playing fields. She moved her hand to mimic dribbling a basketball. Leave it to Amanda. She'd found Charlene. Chapter 7. Charlene was talking with 3 other girls, all dressed for PE, in gray gym shorts and yellow t-shirts. Charlene's expressions changed instantly as she saw Finn approaching. He wondered why she should be so disappointed to see him. They'd gotten along well enough during the shoot. "Hey," he said, greeting her, suddenly made painfully aware of Amanda standing by his side. Charlene excused herself from her friends, saying back in Iraq, and approached Finn. "What are you doing here? Are you cutting?" she asked, viewing Finn skeptically. "And who's she?" "I have to talk to you," he said. "Then she's a friend." Charlene looked him over and then met eyes with Amanda. "I don't think so," she said, and started to walk back toward her friends. "The dreams. Disney after dark," Finn said. That stopped her cold. Amanda looked at Finn curiously, but knew better than to say anything. Dreams that aren't dreams, he added. Charlene spun to face him, excitement and alarm in her sparkling eyes. No way you could know that, she said. Unless, Finn said, I've been there too. What's this about? Amanda asked. A whisper meant only for Finn, yet Charlene overheard. Where she's fit in, Charlene asked. I told you, a friend, willing to help me out. Finn explained. He added quickly, Wayne, the old guy. Have you met him? He needs us all together at night. Tonight or tomorrow, as soon as I can find everyone. The 5 of us, all together. This isn't happening, said Charlene, suspicious of Amanda. Puzzled by Finn, but the expression on her face told him she'd also been in the park in her dreams. Charlene was the kind of girl you might see on a cereal box. Do you know how to reach any of the others? Finn asked. I run into Willa on VMK sometimes, though it's more by chance. Virtual Magic Kingdom, a new, massively multiplayer, online game, was all the rage. Finn played too. Can you tell her to meet us? It's not like I know her like that. Her friends called over to her. Listen, I can't do this now, Charlene said. Contact Willa if you can, but whatever you do, go to bed early tonight, 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock exactly. I've been trying to stay up. I don't exactly love my dreams lately. We need to know, he said. She had to be as curious about this as he was. Could they possibly meet in the park in their dreams? Yeah, okay, Charlene said reluctantly. Charlene looked straight at Amanda, but spoke to Finn. No one can know about this, she said. Then she lowered her voice and hissed, It isn't safe. The coach's whistle sounded shrilly. Charlene took off running, but glanced back at Finn one last time. He saw her fear in her eyes. Meet me, he called out. Charlene didn't answer, but her eyes registered that she'd heard. After a moment, Amanda said, We better be getting back. Yeah, Finn agreed. It isn't safe. Charlene's warning seemed to hang in the air between them. Chapter 8. I'm going to bed, Finn announced, standing up from the dinner table and carrying his plate to the kitchen sink. He hadn't been to bed at this hour since elementary school. Are you not feeling well? His mother said in shock. I'm feeling fine, he said. I'm just going to bed early, if that's all right. Have you finished your homework? Yes, it's done. I stayed up for study hall. You what? She set down a bowl of mashed potatoes and crossed her arms. Finn, she eyed him suspiciously. You stayed after school to do your homework? And now you're heading to bed at 7:15. The night before last, his mother had received a call from her contact on the DHI team, asking if Finn had been to the Magic Kingdom lately. Finn had denied going, feeling awful about lying, but knowing she wouldn't believe him. She'd grounded him. Finn didn't even try to challenge her, and that had convinced her of his guilt. If you're planning to sneak out, no way, Finn said. I'm not, I promise. He stepped forward and kissed her. Good night, Mom. I'm going to check on you when your father gets home. Okay, Finn said. Just don't wake me up, please, he added. I need a good night's sleep. He checked his computer. No interesting email. He debated logging on to VMK. and looking for Charlene. But instead he changed into his pajamas and brushed his teeth, passing his mother in the hall on the way back from the bathroom. She wore her concern openly. "It's only 7:15, she reminded him. "We could catch the Simpsons." She trapped him. This was an offer he would never normally turn down. "I'm going to pass, Mom, but thanks." "It's a bad rule, making you get approval before going." "A stupid rule, really. If you took a friend to the park, well, your father and I would. I understand how you wouldn't have wanted to tell us." Finn considered her olive branch. "Amanda," he said. "Her name's Amanda." Relief spread across his mother's face. He feared she might hug him. She was smiling now, beaming. "Night, Mom." She looked like she might cry. "I'll talk to your father," was all she said. Finn knew he wouldn't be grounded by morning. He shut his bedroom door. If he crossed over into the park, he didn't want to be in his pajamas, so he changed back into jeans and a t-shirt. He lay there for 15 wakeful minutes, with the lights out, checking the clock regularly. He tried to relax. Dusk played at the edges of his shades. It felt like the middle of the day. He cleared his mind, dozed off, and finally sank into a deep sleep. "You're learning," said the old man's voice from behind him. Finn turned to see Rain, in khakis and a plaid shirt, sitting behind the wheel of an electric golf cart with the Walt Disney World logo painted on the front. The sky glowed faintly on the horizon. It took Finn a moment to register his location, as somewhere in Frontierland, not far from Tom Sawyer's Island. "You just missed the fireworks display," Wayne said, stopping the cart alongside Finn. "Park closed a few minutes ago. I love this time of night, especially the music." "What music?" Finn didn't hear any music, and realized now that he'd always heard music in the park. The old guy was a bit daffy. Finn reached out and grabbed the steel bar that supported the cart's awning. He saw his glowing hand wrapped around the metal, but could also faintly see through his hand as well. Not only that, but the metal didn't feel exactly like metal. "This is so weird," he confessed. "Don't fight it," Rain said. "This is probably the weirdest thing I've ever done. And I've done some weird stuff," Finn said. "This one time a friend of mine and I..." He caught himself blabbering. Instead he told Rain, "I found Charlene. I'm still trying to locate the others. It has to be all of you. You understand that? Don't you? All or nothing. Youngsters your age, you always think it's all about you. Only you. I can promise you, it has to be all of you. I want to help you. You have no choice," he said. "At some point, you'll understand that." Finn felt the words like drum beats in his chest. "What do you mean?" "You know what I mean." "I thought it was a dream at first," Finn said. "And now?" "Now I don't think so. I don't know exactly what it is if it isn't a dream. But I don't think it could be a dream." He hesitated and said, "I saw the moon." Rain nodded and cocked his head curiously. "Yet something's bothering you. Charlene said it isn't safe. You basically said the same thing. And yet here you are. You came back," Rain said. "You brought me back." "Did I?" "Not exactly. This is a two-way street, young man. You are neither hologram nor human. You're something in between. I think the holograms don't think for themselves, and they speak only what you recorded them for them. How much you are, one or the other, may depend on your thinking. What you're thinking, how you're thinking it. So I'd be careful of what I was thinking if I were you. Finn spotted a large gold bear by the entrance to the jungle cruise. He shook his head to clear his eyes, since the bear was walking on 2 feet, and there was what looked like an oversized rat jogging to keep up with it. Is that? What? The old man said exactly. Pooh and Piglet, is it? There, Finn said, pointing. I told you, didn't I? Wayne was quick to lose his patience. I don't see what you see. He sounded frustrated. Pooh and Piglet, Finn was certain now. What are they doing? Walking away from us. Anything else? You're kidding, right? Finn felt like some kind of translator. I told you, things are happening in the park. We, you, and your friends actually need to stop them. They overtake us? Yes. It isn't safe, Finn repeated. No, it's not, Wayne said, agreeing. What's that mean exactly? What do you think of the park as a small child? Magic, Finn said, without a second thought. He still thought of it as magic. Exactly, Wayne agreed. But there are 2 sides to magic, yes? Good magic is what you're talking about. But there's other magic besides good magic. Black magic, Finn stated. A layman's term, but yes, a darker side to magic that few, if any, fully understand. Do you? Heavens, no. But Walt did. He wrote about it. He made films, invented characters. He understood its seriousness, its potential for. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Potential for what? Evil? Let's just put a pin in that. We'll come back to it. Finn climbed into the front seat of the golf cart. His feet disappeared. They weren't simply in shadow. They were gone. He felt a little faint. My feet, he gasped. Wayne explained. The hologram imagining systems isn't set up to project to all locations. There are places we call shadows, like dead spots, where cell phones don't work. Inside, some extractions, they will be visible, the DHIs will be visible. Other locations, maybe not. Your feet inside a cart, for instance, he said, pointing. Not so good. You may be able to control this. We don't know for sure. You're the first of your kind. Finn glanced down at his missing feet. It wasn't so bad. Okay, Wayne asked. Okay, I guess. Wayne pressed the accelerator. The cart lurched forward. Where'd you get your license? Finn asked, holding on for dear life. What license? Wayne answered, his eyes sparkling. 4 or 5 dark shadowy figures streaked across the intersection in front of the cart. Wayne didn't see them. Finn reached over and jerked the cart's steering wheel, narrowly averting an accident. Wayne braked to a stop. You nearly paved those guys, Finn explained. What guys? Finn couldn't complete the sentence. Wayne hadn't seen them. Then Finn said, Pirates. He pointed to their left. But not exactly pirates. They look more like what? More like robots. Like the lifelike pirates in Pirates of the Caribbean. And Finn realized that was it. They weren't people, but audio animatronics. figures that had somehow come alive. "Never mind," Finn said, not wanting to sound crazy. A group of the figures was pushing a line of small blue cars ahead of them. Finn thought he'd recognize the cars, but couldn't associate them with any particular attraction. He was stuck on the idea that some of the AAs, but they were only machines, had come alive. Was that possible? Wayne asked, "How many?" 5. No, 6, including the guy with the hat. "Interesting. What guy with a hat?" Finn didn't want to go there. He called them pirates, and that was that. "You really can't see them." "Me heavens, no. I see the cars, but nothing else," Wayne said excitedly. "And if you can see them, then maybe you can stop them. Or at least try to stop them." Stop them from what exactly?" 3 nights ago, at the end of the Phantasmic show, the dragon set Mickey on fire. Obviously, that's not supposed to happen. Mickey is supposed to win. He jumped into the water. He's alright. The crowd laughed. They didn't get it. But Mickey could be in some serious trouble. And then what? But those are actors, right? The dragon is a machine, an audio animatronics machine. But that machine malfunctioned, didn't it? It did something that it's not programmed to do. How is that possible? How can that be explained? Finn thought, what a strange old man. Wayne said, "You think I'm a strange old man. Do not. You're the chosen leader of the DHIs. Don't question it. Accept it. Without you, Finn, there is no plan." "What plan?" Finn gulped. Wayne seemed so serious all of a sudden. Finn sensed something behind and to his right. He spun around and saw her, Charlene. His breath caught. She was glowing. A fuzzy light sputtered at the edges of her body, and all around her head, like a halo. She wore a white nightgown. Her hair danced in the wind. Some distance behind her stood Philby. He wore school clothes like Finn. Finn recognized him immediately. They were missing Maybeck and Willa. "Hey there," a girl voice called out. Finn turned. The pirate in the black hat was addressing him. "Me?" Finn's expression said, though he kept his mouth shut. Wayne asked, "What's happening?" "Don't get ahead of yourself," he warned. Charlene and Philby moved steadily closer. Wayne, appearing distraught, admonished Finn, "You must not get ahead of yourself." Finn climbed out of the golf cart. Then, concentrating, he walked right through the cart to the other side. "It's all about what I'm thinking," he realized. "If I focus on being a DHI, I'm nothing but light." A shimmering Charlene approached a tree. She tried to walk through, but crashed into it instead. "How do you do that?" she asked. "Why can't I do it?" she asked Wayne. Wayne seemed flustered. "You all need more time." He glared at Finn. The harsh grinding of metal dragging on pavement interrupted them as the pirates pushed the line of blue cars. The one in the hat with a broad mustache and thick black beard hollered out, "Ahoy there, matey! Lend us a hand, if you will." Finn stayed where he was. "I said, lend a hand," hollered the elaborately dressed man. Behind him, the more scruffy pirates' machines pushed and dragged the blue cars. All of a sudden, Finn recognized them as the cars from the Buzz Lightyear ride. He'd been on it dozens of times. "I'll pass, thank you," Finn said. "Pass? I gave ye an order, May boy. Now heave to," the captain growled. "An order? I don't think so," Finn replied. Charlie stepped back and dragged Philby with her. They ducked behind the tree. "The name's Blackbeard," the man said. His mouth moved like a puppet's. His arms and legs moved stiffly. His eyes mechanically shifted from the left to the right. Their motion disconnected from his speech. Finn felt a spike of fear, but hid it. "Is that so? And I suppose I am Jack Sparrow?" he asked, smirking. The captain stepped forward boldly, still ways off. "Is he now?" The pirates stopped their pushing. They gathered behind the captain. Finn counted 6 in all. They were dressed in ill-fitting costumes. They had scars on their faces and scabs on their hairy legs. They went barefoot, wearing dark pants that stopped at their calves, and blue and white striped shirts. But they weren't human. Blackbeard drew his sword. His 6 pirates drew knives. "I said lend a hand. You're in my conscript now. Lad, I'd be obliged if you hove to." "You're not ready," Wayne hissed at Finn from the shadows. "I'd help you if I could see them, but I can't." Finn felt a jolt of terror, unsure what to do. His legs, wobbly and rigid, were unwilling to move. He figured he could run faster than a bunch of mechanical pirates, but wasn't sure he wanted to test that theory. Besides, he couldn't budge. Finn looked back. 4 glowing eyes like cat's eyes shone from behind a tree. Charlene and Philby. "What are you doing with those cars?" Finn asked. The captain stalling think. "You could say I'm borrowing them, laddie. Or you could say the Space Ranger's spin is under repair." He tilted his head and cast an evil eye in Finn's direction. "I've seen you before, Jack Sparrow. Now where would that be?" "I don't think we've met," Finn said. "He's one of them hosts, Captain," a smallish man with frog eyes called out. The man's right arm continually lifted up and down, up and down. This was apparently the motion he made in his role in the attraction, and he couldn't stop it. "A host," the captain declared. "A new ride. Is that what you're telling me?" His pirates mumbled. "We don't much care for new rides," the captain explained in a dry, cold voice. "Don't much care for them at all." "Do I look like a ride?" Finn asked. His voice trembled. "I'm just a boy." "You're my boy now," the captain declared. "Ain't he, lads?" His pirates all nodded in chorus. He said to Finn, "Now be a good boy and lend us a hand." "I'd prefer not to," Finn said. "If you don't mind, I'll be on my way." He summoned his courage and turned. "You don't turn your back on the captain, youngster. I said halt." Finn stopped and glanced back over his shoulder. The captain signaled his crew, and they reacted immediately, like a bunch of well-trained dogs. They fanned out. They were not exactly fast on their mechanical legs and feet, but they were steady and worked well as a team. One of the pirates climbed into a Space Ranger's car. He aimed its toy laser cannon at Finn and fired. A bright red pulse of light shot through the night, narrowly missing Finn. He'd ridden the Space Ranger spin himself a dozen times or more. He knew there was nothing to fear. He put his hands into the laser's light stream before. nothing ever happened. The laser cannons were no more dangerous than a flashlight. Another thin red line of light flashed. Again it missed, but then Finn realized the cars were not plugged in, were not attached to any ride, had no power source. So where did the electricity for the cannon come from? As if to answer him, the next pinpoint of light struck his arm. A red bead flickered on his shirt sleeve. The fabric instantly turned brown, then gray, then ouch! It burned him. Finn leaped out of the way. "Hey," he blurted out. He smelled burning hair. His skin. The laser was real. Another flash. Finn dodged out of the way. He avoided the next few attempts as well, the red beams flying past him like glowing arrows. He danced left and right, his arms stinging. Now the other pirates circled and closed in on Finn, their knives extended. If a toy laser can burn, what is a very real looking knife going to do? Rain had warned him that he was half hologram, half human. Only now did he realize his human half could hurt. His wounded arm looked less transparent all of a sudden. He wondered if his fear made him more human than hologram. He pushed against the fear, as if he were trying to shut a heavy door. A gray-haired pirate with a peg leg thumped his way closer. The circle closed around him. Now Finn could smell the pirate's oily like an old car, and faintly electrical. Charlene called out to him from behind the tree. The captain raised his sword higher, trying to follow that voice. "Reinforcements, mates. Be ready." Two of the younger pirates closed in on Finn. They walked stiffly and slowly like 6-foot-tall toy soldiers. Finn circled to his right, away from them. He dodged 2 more attempts from the laser. One of the pirates was hit in the process. The captain raised his hand to stop the laser assault. The 2 young pirates, their knives glinting, pressed even ever closer. The captain, with one knee cocked, his foot perched on the lead car, thundered, "Well now, laddies, serve him up like a fine fillet." "Hey, dog breath!" It was Philby. He stepped out from behind the tree. All 6 pirates turned toward Philby at once. With the pirates' attention briefly diverted, Finn sprang for the nearest Space Ranger car. He grabbed hold of its laser, swiveled and fired. A pulse of red light shot out. Finn was a veteran of Space Ranger, Spin. He winged the pirate in the car ahead of him, not 10 feet away. The pirate didn't seem to feel it. He was a machine. Another pirate charged. Finn shot his knee out, and the thing toppled over, its one good leg moving, still trying to walk. Finn saw a difference between Blackbeard and the other pirates. Blackbeard had a vaguely human sound to him. Most of the others, all but a few, looked and sounded more like machines than real pirates. Finn sliced and burned right through the peg leg of the older pirate. He too teetered, leaned and tumbled over, 2 down. On the captain's command, his men charged as a unit. Finn aimed for their knees in a brilliant display of gunnery. They staggered. Several fell. The captain ordered a retreat, and Finn held his fire. Blackbeard, his eyes darting weirdly back and forth, reached for, but then decided against, the sword that hung at his waist. He clicked his tongue in disappointment. "You've made a terrible mistake, lad. Me advice for ye is, go back from whence ye came, and take them there other two with ye, for your own good." His mechanical facial expression never changed. He made no more threats, not with Finn, still perched behind the laser. He suddenly turned and walked away. He did not run, did not hurry. Finn noted. He headed down the path and a moment later was gone, out of sight. His pirates dragged themselves and their other fallen mates off with them. Finn released his hold on the laser, his fingers stiff from gripping so tightly. His shirt bore a small charred hole. The burn on his arm was now a blistered scab. He hoped he might only have imagined it, but no. It hurt something fierce. He climbed out of the car. "Way to go," Charlene said simply, trying not to sound too impressed. Philby approached and Finn thanked him for the diversion. The two shook hands. It felt to Finn as if that handshake represented a pact between them. They were in this together now. To celebrate what he called their first victory, Wayne offered them ice cream bars from a food kiosk. He carried a heavy-looking ring with dozens of keys of all shapes and sizes, with which he unlocked the kiosk. Finn sat down on a bench. Wayne handed him his ice cream sandwich, and Finn tore off the paper and bit into the treat. He tasted it, though. It wasn't nearly as sweet as it should have been. Maybe he was only half human, he thought. "What about Rilla and Maybeck?" Charlene asked, enjoying her ice cream. Finn devoured the ice cream sandwich. With his mouth full, he said, "No clue." Charlene explained, "Me and Philby met here in the park the other night. We haven't found each other, you know, on the outside yet. Not like the way you found me. But here we are." Her mention of the outside sent shivers up Finn's spine. Philby said, "I don't seem to remember as much as Charlene when I wake up. I'm not sure why. But you know, I've never really remembered my dreams. So maybe that's part of it." "But this isn't a dream," Finn reminded him. "I know that now," Philby said. "But I didn't know that earlier." "This will all change," Rain said. "The more you cross over, the more it will feel familiar to you." "Cross over," Philby repeated. "Weird, huh?" Finn said. Rain's hand slipped into his pocket. "No," Finn called out, knowing the man intended to send him back to his bed. "You owe us an explanation first. I need you all together," Rain said. Finn said, "You have the three of us. That will have to do. If we are ever all together, then fine. You can explain it again. But I just got burned on my arm by a group of pirates," Philby said. "Mechanical pirates." "Mechanical pirates that could talk and take orders," Charlene added. "Yes, pirates," Finn said. "Pirates you can't see, as I understand it. And I don't understand it. And I'll stay up dusk to dawn if I have to, in order to figure this out. And if you don't tell us what this is about, you won't see me again. Or me, Philby said. Or me, Charlene agreed. It's now or never, Finn declared. The old man looked paler by a good deal. Some bird off in the thick of green cooed deeply. Finn felt like they were being watched. All right, Threin said, smiling. He glanced around suspiciously. Come with me. They followed. After a bit of a walk, Rain unlocked and admitted them into the auditorium for the country bear jamboree. He placed the 3 kids in the first row. Then he walked through the dark space and checked all the doors. He returned to the front of the hall and leaned against the stage to address them. There's a fine line between imagination and reality. An inventor dreams something up, and pretty soon it's there on the table before him. A science fiction writer envisions another world, and then some space probe finds it. If you believe in something strongly enough, I think you can make it happen. That's a good thing, Finn said. Wayne asked, but what if we believe in witches and villains? If we believe as strongly in things like them? Can we make them happen? You're giving me the creeps. This wonderful place makes both the sides happen, the good and the bad. Some of Walt's stories go back generations, hundreds of years. Cinderella, Snow White. We see similar stories in many different cultures across the globe. What if these stories were once true? If they were real, passed down from generations to generations? Different cultures experience similar things. And if they were real, all real, if the hero and heroine go off to live happily ever after, then what happens to the villains? Witches, sea monsters, and evil stepmothers? Finn said, you're saying that because the park makes them real, they are real? I'm saying if you believe strongly enough, anything can happen. And millions of people, kids and adults, visit Broadway shows, the websites Disney on Ice, every year, and they believe, Finn said. In the bad and the good, Charlene said. Exactly. Yes, they do. And there's power in that belief, Threin said. So, Philby asked, so you know your history. What is inevitable once evil gains power? Philby answered, it wants more. Empires, wars, that kind of stuff. We call them the Overtakers, Rain whispered. Finn felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. Who, Philby asked, also in the whisper. We, the Imagineers, I'm talking about, needed something mortal, something part, a hybrid, that could cross over to the character world. That's what we call it, crossing over. We suspected for years that the characters come alive, if you will, once the gates are closed. We've had evidence of this for some time, but when the trouble started happening, we knew we needed you. Someone who could see the Overtakers, interact with them, stop them. This is crazy, Charlene mumbled. Walt knew this time would come. The world gets out of balance. The dark forces rule. History is full of such times. They can last hundreds of years unchecked. It's like a plague, this dark thought. There's no music, no art, only tyranny and war, madness. Charlene said, I think I've heard enough. I like to wake up now, in my own bed. Wayne continued. You asked to hear this, so listen. The kids remained seated, their full attention on Wayne. As I said, Walt knew such a time would come. He left us a treasure map for a scavenger hunt, something the Overtakers could not easily figure out. Even if they obtained it, which they never have. Most of them are machines, you see, audio animatronics, and figures from attractions. Only a handful can think, can communicate, but they control the others. The Stonecutter's Krill, Finn mumbled. Wayne had mentioned it the first time they'd met. The what? Philby asked. It's a fable, Wayne said, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We must wait for the others. I, for one, Charlie said, am never coming back. So if you've got something to say, you'd better say it. Wayne paced as he talked. Think about it. The pirates, Maleficent, Cruella de Vil, Ursula, all with so much belief fueling them. Belief to draw upon. It was inevitable, I suppose. What was inevitable? Charlene asked. We didn't seem to hear her. And so many others all in the same place at the same time. Here in this park. The belief supporting them, making them stronger, making them real. Finn explained to Charlene and Philby. This has something to do with the fire-breathing dragon and Mickey in Phantasmic. Wayne said, That's not the end of it. We have rides closed unexpectedly. The laser cars go missing. Costumes disappear. The parade route is changed, with no one the riser. Small, harmless stuff so far, but for how long? Did you see the news? 100 padlocks were stolen from a hardware store. The security tapes revealed nothing, showed no one inside the store. Mark my word, those padlocks were stolen. One minute on the shelf, the next missing. So how did that happen? How long until the rest of us can see them? How long until they can burn us the way they burned Finn tonight? What happens then? What happens when they realize there's a whole big world outside these park walls? What if they want to expand their empire? What then? He stopped. He was red-faced and breathing hard. Finn thought he thought he looked a little sick. Maybe we should sit down, Finch just suggested. It wasn't until the hurricane that we realized how far this had come. The hurricane, Finn repeated softly. A hurricane changed course while out at sea, and then headed directly here to Orlando. I'll accept that as a coincidence, a fluke of nature. Wayne, clearly growing agitated, collected himself. But do you know what happened to that storm after it passed over here? Check it out on the internet. It lost power. Came in here at once, strength, and left considerably weaker. You think it just rained and blew itself out? We think not. We think that storm was harnessed, used like a giant battery, like a vampire sucking blood. The Overtakers used that storm to gain power. Since that storm, we've had a lot more unexplained inconveniences. They are practicing. They are getting ready for something bigger. Are you listening to yourself? That can't be, Finn mumbled. That's crazy. Philby caught Finn's look. He shook his head as if to say, "It's not crazy." Then he said aloud, "Some ancient civilizations are thought to have used powerful storms to control their people." Wayne said, "That hurricane was downgraded after passing over here." He sounded frightened. "I'd really like to go home now," Charlene said. Finn thought about it for a moment and said softly, So let's say we accept some of this. What are we supposed to do?" He knew he sounded terrified, but he couldn't help himself. "You three and the others were carefully chosen for your individual talents. As Deech Eyes, you are part of their world. As kids, you are a part of ours. You are our eyes into the other side. Spies," Philby said. "If you like," Rain said. "I don't like," Philby answered. Finn sputtered. "I don't see what we're supposed to do." "Sure you do, or you wouldn't be afraid. And while you're at it, think about this," Rain said. "Why and how do you think we came up with the concept of the Deech Eyes?" Charlene said, "Us being hosts? You're saying that wasn't the real reason?" Philby said, "They needed something that could exist in the character world, but wasn't a part of it." Wayne grinned at him. "Aha," he declared. "But the development cost the time and energy it took to create you. We had to have a use for you to justify you to the rest of the company." He made eyes with Finn. "Because no one would believe you if you told them a bunch of witches were going to take over the Magic Kingdom," Finn said. Wayne didn't answer this directly. He said, "And so we dreamed up the idea of the holograms, the interactive hosts." Philby just did. "You needed spies, someone to find out what the Overtakers were up to. Find out if they even existed," Wayne said, nodding. "And now that you know they do," Finn stated, rubbing the burn on his left arm, "now what?" "We need to lure out their leader. Whoever that turns out to be. Whatever that turns out to be. Deprogram it. Redraw it. Lock it up. Who knows?" "You need us as bait," Finn complained. What left us a solution," Rain reminded. "We need you to solve the riddle of the Stonecutter's Krill." The old guy looked exhausted. Charlene said, "And if we don't want to?" Wayne's mouth twisted and his eyes looked stern and serious. "At some point, you're going to have to sleep," he said. "And from now on, when you do, you're going to cross over." He hesitated, then stepped closer to her, his face gentle and kind. "I'm sorry, my dear girl, but there is no skipping this ride." Chapter 9. When Finn awoke, he hurried into the bathroom, tore his shirt off over his head, and studied the pea-sized red and brown scab with the dime-sized scarlet circle of flesh that surrounded it. The burn hurt. Something fierce. This was no dream. He winced as he cleaned it with soap and water. "Yah!" he hollered, his cry echoing in the tiled room. "Finn, dear?" his mother called from the hallway. She knocked. "Are you all right?" "Fine. May I come in?" She let herself in. She was in her nightgown. Dawn had arrived an hour earlier. The pink of the eastern sky now silver with clouds. "Finn, dear." She studied him in the mirror's reflection. From behind, no doubt. wondering why he was only half dressed, and shit in a ball on the floor. "What's that? What's happened? Honey?" She laid her warm hand on his shoulder. Finn felt like telling her the truth, but he knew she wouldn't believe him, so what to do? They both were focused on the burn. He couldn't very well say that he'd been in a laser battle with invisible pirates. She'd caught him off to the mental ward, or worse, their minister. "A cigarette," Finn said. He hated smoking more than anything on the planet. In her right mind, his mother knew this about him. Finn had once walked across a restaurant and boldly asked a smoker to put out his cigarettes so that his own hamburger didn't have to taste like an ashtray. This at 7 years old, but his mother wasn't thinking right. To her, seeing was believing. "You what?" she gasped. He felt awful both for lying to her and for using smoking as his excuse. He'd crushed her mom. How'd you get it, Mom? And don't you lie to me." He tried to think of how to explain this without lying, because not to lie was one promise he had made to his parents that he hated having to break. "I didn't smoke it. Mom, a cigarette burned me." He bent and picked up his shirt off the floor and held it up to show her. The hole was obvious enough. If it was this guy, a bully, you know. She collected herself. "A bully? Who did this to you, Finn?" "A pirate," he heard himself mumble. "What? He's called pirate because he's so mean. He should be arrested." "No, it's nothing." "Nothing. That's a criminal act. Burning someone, Finn." She spun him around to face her. "Breathe." "What?" "I want to smell your breath." "Mom, now, young man." He breathed toward her groping nose. She blinked rapidly. "So after all we talk about, you sneaked out anyway." He'd forgotten about that part of his explanation. Well," she brightened. Her eyes went soft and her eyebrows danced, and he thought that this was the way she looked before she cried, "Oh, Finn, thank you for not lying to me." "It's so important not to lie," she added. Matter-of-factly, "Give me his name, please. His real name right now." "I don't know his real name. Just some kid. I don't think he meant to burn me. Just scare me a little. It's just one of those growing up things, you know." She often talked to him about growing up things. She held him at arm's length now, studying him thoughtfully. He didn't like the look on her face. This was her best imitation of a lie detector. "Did you sleep in your clothes?" The dark cloud in her eyes concerned him. "This is the same shirt, these are the same clothes you wore yesterday, for goodness sake." As she pieced it together, Finn tried to think of something to distract her, but she was too quick for him. "I don't remember that hole in your shirt at dinner." "Hands beneath the table, Mom." "Finn, I can't help it if you didn't see it." "I should have known with you going to bed so early last night." She was thinking aloud. "We can't tell your father." He breathed a huge sigh of relief. She eyed his wound. "But this didn't happen to you last night, didn't it? After you went to sleep?" He had no choice but to nod. Being grounded for life was better than continuing to lie to her. "How late were you out?" she asked, heading for his bedroom window to inspect it like a detective. "Midnight." This was the truth. "How'd you do it? Your father and I were downstairs until 11 or later." Finn's window looked down on the area of the driveway in front of the garage. There was no roof below him, just a tiny apron of flower bedding, and then the driveway's black asphalt. He had a brain freeze trying to think up a way to explain his nocturnal escape, knowing from previous experience that the more of the story he made up, the more difficult it would be to keep it straight. Then he remembered the room's window box. "The fire ladder," he said. His grandfather had installed a chain fire ladder several years before, in the event of an emergency. He was to block the bottom crack of his door with clothes and bedding, and wait for instructions from firemen to use the stowaway ladder. He'd promised a long time ago to never use the ladder to sneak out. "I see," she'd said, clearly disappointed in him. "If you have to ground me, I understand," Finn said, trying to subtly encourage her to do so. If grounded, he could spend more time in his room without raising suspicions. More time in his room meant more chances to sleep, and sleep meant crossing over. If he napped, would he cross over into the park during the day? So many questions to answer. "Show me," his mother ordered. "Show you what?" "The ladder. How you got down there?" Finn looked out of the window and felt a little dizzy. It looked about 100 feet down. His mother knew he was afraid of heights. "You want me to go down the ladder?" He knew she couldn't possibly want him to do that. It looked like a death wish. Glancing out the window, she said, "No. It looks dangerous to me." "It is dangerous." She put her hand down onto the window's box lid. He was in big trouble if she'd opened up the window box. That fire ladder was buried under a pile of unused toys that went back years. Probably dust an inch thick. How would he explain any of that? He hurried to stop her. "I messed up, Mom. I'm sorry. You are definitely grounded." "Yes, ma'am. And you're not to use that ladder except in case of an emergency." "I need your word on that," she added, haughtily. "And I expect you to keep it. I promise." He hung his head, feeling a mixture of shame and excitement. He poked at his wound as if it would hurt a lot more than it did. Now let's get that cleaned up," she said.